The moment you pull away and choose the path of silence, something happens that has nothing to do with her mind and everything to do with her nervous system. Before she thinks a single conscious thought, her body registers the change in the atmosphere. We are rhythmic creatures by nature. We calibrate our internal state to the people we allow into our inner circle. When your presence is removed, the frequency she has grown accustomed to simply stops. There is a physiological recalibration that occurs in the silence you have created. Most men believe silence creates a sense of mystery or an irresistible pull. In reality, silence initiates a biological audit. If your presence was a source of stress, if her nervous system was constantly on high alert trying to decode your moods or walk on eggshells to avoid your disapproval, her body does something entirely unexpected. It breathes. It relaxes. The cortisol levels that were spiked by the unpredictability of your connection begin to level out. This is the first danger zone for a man using absence as a tactic. If she feels physically better without you, her body will eventually tell her heart that you are a toxin, not a tonic. This internal shift is subtle at first. She might feel a slight pang of curiosity, but underneath it is a growing sense of physical relief. Her sleep patterns might normalize. Her appetite might return. The tension in her shoulders, which she did not even realize she was carrying, begins to dissipate. This is why the advice to just disappear often backfires. You are not creating a void of longing. You are removing a source of friction. When the friction is gone, the machine runs more smoothly. Her body recognizes the absence of the struggle before her mind can even put words to the experience. This biological reaction is the foundation of everything that follows. If your presence brought a sense of safety, grounding, and warmth, your absence will feel like the sudden removal of a weighted blanket on a cold night. Her body will shiver. She will feel exposed, cold, and unsettled. This is the state where genuine longing begins. It is not an intellectual exercise. It is a primal search for the security you provided. But if that security was never there, your absence provides her with the one thing she could not find while you were around: peace. Once the nervous system settles and the immediate physical shock of the change passes, her logical mind begins its work. This is the observation phase. Without your voice, your charm, or the distracting heat of your physical presence, she starts looking at the hard facts. She looks at the text history. She looks at the consistency of your past actions versus the grandiosity of your promises. Silence removes the fog of chemistry. It is like the lights being turned on in a dark room after a long night. She begins to see the architecture of the relationship for what it actually is, not what she hoped it would be. She is not necessarily wondering where you are. She is beginning to wonder why she ever felt she needed you to be there in the first place. This is where the narrative she built about you begins to erode, if it was not built on a solid foundation of character. Women are natural historians of their own emotions. In your absence, she begins to archive the moments of neglect and the instances of inconsistency. She compares the silence of today to the broken promises of yesterday. The logic is cold, and it is relentless. If the data points of your relationship show more confusion than clarity, her mind will start to build a case for your permanent departure. She starts to realize that the energy she spent trying to understand you can now be spent on herself. The logical evaluation is often the point of no return. It is the moment she realizes that her life is not just quieter without you, but more efficient. She realizes she has more time for her friends, more focus for her work, and more room in her heart for herself. The mystery you thought you were creating becomes a clarity you never intended. She sees that your silence is not a power move, but a lack of capacity. She sees that your withdrawal is not a sign of high value, but a sign of emotional poverty. This clarity is a powerful drug. It empowers her to look at the situation without the filter of hope. When a woman stops hoping for a man to change, the relationship is effectively over. The silence provides the space for that hope to finally die a natural death. After the logic has stripped away the illusions, she enters the phase of emotional value assessment. This is a deep internal weighing of what you actually brought to her life. She asks herself the hard questions. Did I feel seen when I was with him? Did I feel like a better version of myself? Or was I constantly shrinking to fit into his world? Was he an asset to my emotional health or a liability I was constantly managing? This is the pivot from what is he doing to what was he actually adding. A man's true value is never felt more clearly than when it is absent, but only if that value was real. If you provided emotional leadership, if you were the person she could turn to when her world felt chaotic, then your absence feels like a missing limb. There is a void where strength used to be. But if you were just another source of chaos, your absence feels like the sun coming out after a long storm. Emotional value is not about how much money you spent or how many compliments you gave. It is about the quality of the silence you shared and the security of the bond you built. If your value was based on superficial things, that value evaporates the moment you leave the room. But if your value was based on the way you made her feel safe enough to be vulnerable, your absence will be a heavy burden. She will miss the way you listened. She will miss the way you handled conflict with maturity. She will miss the way your presence made the world feel less threatening. However, most men who use absence as a tactic are not providing this kind of value. They are using silence to create an artificial sense of importance. They are trying to manufacture a feeling of being missed because they do not believe they are worth missing based on their character alone. This is the ultimate irony. The more you use absence to manipulate her, the more you prove that your presence was not valuable enough to keep her interested on its own. A woman of high emotional intelligence will sense this manipulation instantly. She will realize that your absence is a game, and she will decide that she is too tired to play. The emotional value assessment then becomes a total write-off. She looks at the account of your relationship and sees that the debts far outweigh the assets. She realizes that she was the one doing all the emotional labor, and your absence is simply the end of her shift. She clocks out, and she does not look back. This brings us to the most uncomfortable part of the process, the hard truth about why men use absence and what it says about them. Many men use silence as a shield. They disappear when things get difficult because they do not have the tools to communicate. They pull back when they feel vulnerable because they equate vulnerability with weakness. They tell themselves they are being stoic or mysterious, but they are actually just being avoidant. From a woman's perspective, there is nothing less attractive than a man who cannot stand his ground and speak his truth. When you use absence as a tool for control, you are admitting that you do not have the strength to lead with honesty. You are hoping that by withdrawing, you can force her to come to you. You are trying to make her the pursuer so that you do not have to take the risk of being rejected. This is not the behavior of a high-value man. This is the behavior of a man who is terrified of being seen. The hard truth is that if your absence makes a woman feel better, you were never the man she needed you to be. You were a project, a problem, or a placeholder. If she finds her peace in your silence, it means your presence was a disturbance. This is a bitter pill to swallow, but it is the only way to grow. You have to ask yourself why you feel the need to disappear to be valued. Why isn't your presence enough? Why can't you build a connection so solid that your absence is naturally felt as a loss rather than a relief? This requires a shift from tactics to character. It requires you to stop looking for shortcuts to attraction and start building the foundation of a man who is actually worth missing. A man worth missing is a man who is consistent. He is a man who says what he means and does what he says. He is a man who provides a sense of emotional security that is so rare in today's world that his absence is immediately felt as a significant deprivation. He does not need to play games with silence because his words are already powerful. He does not need to disappear to be felt because his energy is always present, even when he is in the next room. This is the level of growth that is required if you want to move beyond the cycle of chasing and retreating. You have to become a man of substance. You have to develop the internal strength to be present even when it is uncomfortable. You have to learn how to lead a woman with clarity and intention, rather than leaving her in a state of confusion. When you do this, your absence becomes a meaningful event. It is no longer a tool of manipulation. It is simply a temporary break in a valuable connection. She will miss you because you made her life better, not because you made her feel insecure. She will wait for you because she knows you are worth waiting for, not because she is afraid of losing you. The pivot from tactics to character is the most important journey a man can take. It is the difference between being a boy who plays with emotions and a man who honors them. It is the difference between being a temporary distraction and a permanent fixture in someone's life. If you want a woman to miss you, stop focusing on the silence and start focusing on the noise you make when you are there. Are you bringing value? Are you bringing peace? Are you bringing strength? If the answer is no, then all the silence in the world will not save the connection. It will only accelerate its end. The real power is not in disappearing. The real power is in being so present, so solid, and so undeniably valuable that the thought of your absence is the only thing she truly fears. This is the reality check that every man needs. Stop looking for the right time to go silent and start looking for the right way to show up. Character is the only thing that survives the test of time and distance. Tactics are temporary, but a man's impact is permanent. When a woman is sitting in the silence you created, she is not just thinking about you. She is experiencing the version of herself that you left behind. If that version of her is happy, free, and at peace, she will never come back to the version of her that was with you. But if the version of her that was with you was the best version of herself, she will count the minutes until you return. That is the only game worth playing. That is the only silence that truly speaks. To reach this level of understanding, you must be willing to look at your own patterns with brutal honesty. Have you been using distance as a way to avoid the work of intimacy? Have you been mistaking her anxiety for attraction? When she was blowing up your phone because you were being distant, did you feel powerful? If so, you were feasting on her distress. That is not the behavior of a man who loves. It is the behavior of a man who is hungry for validation. True strength is being able to provide security without needing her to be in a state of panic to feel your own worth. When you can do that, you change the entire dynamic of your relationships. You stop being the man who vanishes and start being the man who anchors. You become the lighthouse, not the storm. Think about the impact your presence has on a woman's daily life. Does she feel like she can breathe more deeply when you walk into the room? Does her heart rate slow down in a good way because she knows she can trust you? Or does she start to tense up, anticipating the next mood swing or the next period of coldness? Your absence is merely the mirror that reflects these truths back to her. If you want the reflection to be one of longing, you must ensure that the reality of your presence is one of profound value. This value is built in the small moments. It is built in the way you handle a boring Tuesday, the way you respond to her fears, and the way you maintain your own integrity when no one is watching. It is built in your ability to be a man of your word every single time. When a woman knows she can count on you, your absence is felt as a genuine void. It is a space that cannot be easily filled by anyone else because your specific brand of reliability is so unique. This is how you become unforgettable. You don't do it by being silent. You do it by being solid. The silence then becomes a reminder of the solidity she has lost. It becomes a catalyst for her to appreciate you more, rather than a reason for her to move on. In the end, silence reveals everything. It reveals the strength of the bond, the quality of the man, and the truth of the woman's feelings. You cannot hide from the truth of your absence. It will either speak of your greatness or whisper of your irrelevance. The choice is yours. You can continue to use silence as a tactic, hoping to trick someone into wanting you, or you can become a man whose presence is so powerful that silence is the only thing that could ever be considered a loss. Focus on the character you are building when you are with her. Focus on the emotional safety you are providing. Focus on being a man who does not need to play games because he knows his own worth. When you are that man, you will never have to worry about whether or not she misses you. She will miss you because her life is objectively better with you in it. And that is the only kind of missing that leads to a lasting, healthy connection. The hard truth that most men avoid is that absence is a magnifying glass. It takes whatever was already there and makes it larger. If there was love and security, it makes the longing larger. If there was doubt and anxiety, it makes the relief larger. You cannot use absence to create something that was not there in the first place. You cannot use silence to manufacture love out of thin air. You can only use it to reveal what has already been built. So, before you decide to go silent, Look at what you have built. If the house is made of sand, the wind of your absence will blow it away. But if the house is built on stone, the silence will only serve to show how strong the foundation really is. Be the man who builds on stone. Be the man whose absence is a testament to his value, not a reveal of his emptiness. This is the path to true growth, and the only way to build a relationship that can withstand the tests of time, distance, and silence. Real strength is not in the ability to walk away. It is in the ability to stay and be the man she actually needs. When you are that man, your absence is not a strategy. It is a temporary silence in a beautiful symphony, and she will be waiting for the music to start again. This concludes the reality check. The power is in your hands to decide which version of the story you want to tell. Will your absence be a correction or a tragedy? Will it be a relief or a loss? The answer is determined by the man you choose to be when you are standing right in front of her. Stop chasing the mystery of the void and start building the legacy of your presence. That is how you win. That is how you lead. That is how you become the man she will never want to live without. The depth of your impact is measured by the quality of the peace she feels when you are near. If your presence is a sanctuary, your absence will be a desert. If your presence is a desert, your absence will be an oasis. Choose to be the sanctuary. Choose to be the man whose silence is felt as a profound quietness, but whose presence is felt as a life-giving force. That is the ultimate goal of emotional maturity and the secret to a connection that never fades. Let your absence be a reminder of the light you bring, not the darkness you leave behind. Every time you speak, every time you act, you are laying a brick in the foundation of how you will be remembered when you are gone. If you want to be missed, build something beautiful. Build something that matters. Build a version of yourself that is so undeniably solid that no amount of silence could ever wash it away. That is the hard truth, and that is the only way forward.